Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology and one of our regular in the hot seat. This time we've got Kim Leary, who I've already apologised to because I did actually put in the original post Tim Leary, which it's definitely not. It's Kim Leary. So, how are you doing, Kim?
Hi, very good, thank you. Yeah, no, definitely not a Tim here.
Okay, so just give us a start. Give us where you grew up, a bit about your background, schooling, and those kind of things. So, and what were you going to be? A train driver? You were going to be a sailor, a soldier? What was your plans when you were young?
I always have enjoyed drawing. So for me, kind of creativity has played a big part in my choices. But certainly when I was growing up, I wanted to be a fashion buyer. I wanted to be all sorts, really, mainly relating to fashion. And I did, what did I do? I did for my A-levels, I did IT, geography and art. I was told by my art teacher that I would not have a career in art. So that was always a good start. And then after that, I went to university. I went to Loughborough University, and I went to do graphic design. But I got quite scared. I got scared by the course. It was very straight edges, very particular. So I kind of got involved in printed textiles. It was really fluid. I could draw however I wanted to, and it was really exciting. Again, the fashion piece kind of came back in, but actually, it's when I graduated, I thought, hey, this is it. This is brilliant. I'm on the road now. And actually, unfortunately, I'd done 2 internships for fashion buying, because again, that's what I thought I was going to do. And I remember I was waiting for the call back from my internship to see if I'd made it onto the graduate scheme. It was a graduate buying scheme. Now, I graduated in 2008, and in 2008, obviously, the world looked very different. The markets had crashed, and there weren't a lot of jobs in marketing. Marketing departments tended to be the first ones that went. So the graduate scheme was my kind of last chance, really. This is what I really wanted to do. And I was stood on the side of the road on the motorway with my little metro car, and the head gasket had blown, and I was stood in the rain when I got the phone call, and I thought, yes. And I answered it. I was like, please give me some good news. I'm stood on the hard shoulder. Can you tell me that I've got the graduate scheme?
Well, we've got something similar today, haven't we? Because haven't you had a stone hit your window today on your car?
Yeah, smashed my windscreen.
so we've got a linkage to cars with both, haven't we? Coming back to, you mentioned about doing IT. I couldn't have done IT when I went to college and school because there were no computers around in the 70s in schools or colleges. So it was a different world in my time, very, very different world. And I nearly went to Loughborough University myself to study metallurgy and work for Swindon House Laboratories at Sheffield, which I'm glad I never didn't do because there are no Sheffield Steel places in Sheffield anymore, so I would have been out of a job a long time ago. So much better I didn't go down that route. Yeah. So tell us how you went from that. So you looked at the buying and marketing of on the actual fashion side. You'd then gone into this fabric and print and those things that give you a bit more flexibility. But how did you get from there to where you are now?
So it's a good question. I think when I graduated, I found it really hard. I found it really hard to find the job that I wanted. Printed textiles was proving to be a difficult industry to get into. I didn't really want to be recreating patterns and fabrics and selling my designs to the print houses. That wasn't really what I thought I would be doing. And graphic design was still really where my heart was being drawn to. So I would apply for jobs, and I was continually knocked back. You know, the amount of CVs that I sent out was just hundreds and hundreds. It was a full-time job looking for the job that I wanted.
So was there any particular reason you think, or was it just so many applicants for the same type of roles?
So many applicants for the same type of roles, and obviously the applicants had also got a relevant degree. I didn't have a graphic design degree. I was applying to work in agencies, and yeah, I just didn't have the right skill set. So my view at that point was, I've got to build my own portfolio. I've got to have something to show. And so I started working for friends and family, started creating logo designs and brochures, and building a portfolio so I could then go to these employers and say, hey, look, I've got the work, I've done it. Here's real life examples. And partway through that journey, I realized, actually, I quite like doing this for myself. And you know, I don't want to go back.
So that's where Squibble came from then, from doing things for friends and family, trying to build a portfolio, and then you decided, actually, this is good, you know, let's make it into a business. So was it called Squibble then, or was it called something else?
No, so then it was Kimberly Jane Design. So it was based on me. So I was a freelancer essentially, but I didn't ever want to be set up as a freelancer. I didn't, despite the name, I still wanted to be seen as a business. I always knew that I wanted to be bigger. So yeah, I kind of I won a contract for a cyber company based in London, and it gave me 6 months. So during that time, I was an account manager for another company. I was working freelance, and I was still looking for other jobs. So I was doing all three things. And my partner said, Kim, you've got to make a decision. What are you doing? You need to focus. You need to make a decision. If you're going to go for the freelancing, go for it. You know, and commit 100% to it. And it was the best piece of advice, to be honest, because he was right. You know, I was trying to do too much. So I won a contract. It gave me 6 months. I dropped my days at the previous company, and I worked a couple of days a week there, and then the rest for myself. So I knew I had 6 months.
It is in early days because you don't have any income, do you, when you first start a business? So you've got to have something to live on. So, you know, getting that first contract or even loaning some money that gets you off the ground that you can actually backfill later is a critical part of any business. You know, I did the same back 17 years ago when I set Tactile up. You know, it's that first step, you know, in the ladder. You've got to really work hard to get to a point where you can actually cover your own costs and get moving. So that first 6 months, what did that lead to?
So that enabled me to have an office. So I had an office in Tamworth. It was a one-person office, but it was quite nice. Nice big desk, my own.
Was that Regis or something like that?
No, it was on an industrial estate, so it was a unit, but it was quite nice. There's only a couple of businesses in there, and it was my own space, and I could close the door and go home, and I felt like I was leaving work, and then I could come back.
Yeah.
And I had clients, they'd come and we'd have meetings, and it felt like I was purposefully moving forward.
A proper business.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people actually feel that leaving the office and going home business is a challenge at the moment. Like I'm working from home at the moment after we were in an office for 15 years, but we've spent the last year and a half working from home because of the situation. And it is difficult. You don't ever escape work. So I'm sure it was great that first time, wasn't it? Walking out of the office, closing the door, and you're actually off. And how did you feel? That was it like freedom when you first set the business up?
Yeah, it was, and more than anything, it's kind of sticking my middle finger up at people. To be honest, it was like I can do this. I am capable, and just got to believe in myself. And when you have lots of people that tell you along the way, I was told continually throughout university, at school, you can't draw. drawing's not your thing. Well, no, I can't draw necessarily. I can't paint, but I can create digitally, and that's what I love doing. And certainly that's where the digital and the web design came in, because it's bad looking back at it now, but because it was just me, I was able to undercut a lot of businesses. Obviously, marketing departments had been hit quite hard, so businesses were looking for a cheaper way to promote. And I discovered WordPress. WordPress had only been around for a few years then, so I was definitely not the first to use it, but certainly there weren't as many WordPress websites back then.
Yeah, I think the CMSs have made a big difference to website development, haven't they? So anybody who doesn't know what CMS, it's a content management system. So WordPress is one of them, where you can utilize the actual infrastructure around WordPress and a database behind to be able to create a website. And it can look completely different, can't it? Depend on the styling you put to it, the images you put to it, and things, and even the text can be quite different between sites.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think most people liked it because it's easy to use. They could have their own design applied to it, but they could still edit the content. And for me, it was an easy way of bringing. I was used to creating business cards and brochures, and at that time, print really it wasn't doing as well as digital. The other thing that I was doing was I was using Twitter to find all of my business. So anybody who had a problem, they would always type, "I need help with my WordPress website," or "I'm looking for help." And so I'd respond on Twitter, and I'd respond to their help.
So you're one of the first people using social media to actually find work as well then, because again, most people now use social media all the time, either at home, to communicate with friends and family, but also, in work, they use some form of social media. But, years ago, it wasn't quite very common, was it? Most people didn't really know about it. They couldn't use it. I think the problem now we've got is so many variations of social media, including, Snapchat, TikTok, all these other things that people use. It's quite a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's changed a lot. So I had particularly on Twitter, I had all of the search filters set up. And so whenever somebody put up a query that responded to one of my search filters, I could quite easily, set up a conversation. And most of the time it resulted in me helping them, fixing their website, or it would lead to more. I mean, at that point, I had clients in America, across Europe, because Twitter it spans so far. But I think one of my most favorite stories that came out of Twitter is I responded to a tweet that a wedding photographer had posted to say that she needed help, and I helped her fix the problem that she had, and we worked together for a number of years afterwards. And then she photographed my wedding. And she was based in Brighton, and I just love that because it kind of developed into so much more. And I think conversations probably do still happen like that on Twitter, but I don't know if they happen in the same way. And because everything's automated, you get an automated response, and it feels
that's it. Nowadays, you're not sure if it's a bot responding or whether it's a real person at the other side. Yeah, and they look so much like humans nowadays when they post. It is difficult, isn't it, to understand if it's people or not, responding to things. So, but going back to then, so how much of your work was printed media, such as brochures and business cards and things, and how much was working on that WordPress side at the beginning?
I mean, definitely at the beginning it was predominantly logo designs and brochures, and then it quickly became more of a focus on digital and WordPress and websites.
And how has that developed up till the present day then?
So now I don't get involved in any of the projects, really. I don't get involved in the builds. I was perfectly capable of going in and making changes to the themes and updating content, but I'm not a developer. It's everything that I've learned. It's all self-taught, and I can absolutely find my way around WordPress. But some of the more technical stuff that we do now, it's completely out of my hands. So we've got 2 WordPress developers that we work with that take on that role, because it's like with anything, it's a huge skill set.
Yeah, and so I think over time, especially as your business grows, you've got to put the right people in the right places. You've got to have the people who've got the right skills for each component of it, and you've got to learn that quite quickly. Otherwise, if you try to go on, you just will plateau, won't you? And you won't grow any further without that additional specialised help.
Yeah, exactly, and it is definitely specialised help, and I've seen firsthand the difference that it can make. And certainly this year we've gone from last year, the year before, we were a team of 3. By the end of this year, we'll be a team of 6. So we've doubled in size this year, and it's not going to be surprising off the back of COVID, where everything did go digital. And I think business owners and marketing managers realised the importance of having a very good online presence and how it can drive business, the impact that it can have.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of key things. Like I say, a lot of people are moving away from that face-to-face and bricks and mortar way of communicating with customers towards digital, but also people are changing how they're doing things on the digital side as well. There's a much more integration and tight knit into systems and things that used to be, because you used to have a completely separate website from the way you communicated with customers. Especially smaller companies, it was all telephone and email, and the website was like a brochure, wasn't it? Now those things are tending to merge together, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, what as a company, what we love doing is taking a brand that's perhaps on the decline, or its messaging's outdated, and you look at the website and it doesn't match with what you do anymore. Every business grows and evolves, and so sometimes the branding gets left behind. The messaging gets a little bit forgotten, and it just needs some TLC. That typically is what we love doing. We've got really good creative skill sets, so creating the kind of the artwork, the copy, everything that sits together that people can see and feel. That for us is really exciting. And then from a technical aspect, WordPress, anybody can build a WordPress website now. They're not difficult, but it's taking it to the next level from a functionality perspective. So a lot of the builds that we do, they've got integrations. We're integrating with existing platforms that the companies might need, or APIs. So it's taking the website and enabling it to do more than just be a brochure website. Being able to kind of drive really good leads, or kind of connect and integrate with the back-end platforms that they're using.
And if you look at large businesses, the big drive over the last maybe 3 to 5 years is a term, digital transformation. So moving everything to digital. So that's communicating inbound, outbound between the consumers of whatever they produce, whether it's services, products, or anything, but also digitizing the internal side as well. So I'm getting rid of paper and making sure everything is like a workflow and digital all the way through. And that's been a big drive in large businesses. But that's now been adopted by these small and medium-sized businesses area, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know how true it is. There's a lot of stats going around of how COVID has pushed our digital transformation within the UK for past kind of 5 years. And whilst I do think that is, to a certain degree, probably quite fair, we've had to adapt it. We've had to adopt, but I think that everybody, like with anything, the understanding of what digital transformation means for different people can be very different. I mean, we work with Capita, and their digital transformation is very, very different to a kind of a smaller business. Certainly for them, it's about taking the delivery of typically face-to-face services that are one-to-one and making them one-to-many through online platforms that enable training. That it serves a huge purpose, especially when you're trying to upskill. When you're upskilling large regional areas, it's very beneficial. And certainly they're the type of projects that are interesting and exciting.
Yeah, the days of sending a trainer out to each site and going through each new product release or new service delivery has gone, hasn't it? It's more delivery over video, or even, interactive type training using web-based services and videos rather than that face-to-face type activity, isn't it? It's changed a lot. So tell us a little bit about how your business has changed through the pandemic, the things that you've done either by choice or by necessity, and also then tell us a little bit about maybe some of your key customers and what they've had to do to change to this new world of work that we're in at the moment.
I think it's tricky. I think the biggest change for us is really focusing on what it is that we enjoy. We are really only a lean agency, but we have a huge output, and we work with some of the biggest clients in the UK, to be honest. For me, the size of your team doesn't matter. It's what you're capable of. And it's a frustrating point for me, because I know that, lots of companies will think, oh, the bigger they are, the better they are. And it's just so not true. Sometimes the bigger they are, the more time gets wasted and the less meetings are. So for me, being a lean team and actually having really good quality team members, it makes what we do even more special. I think typically, the clients that we work with tend to be multi-million-pound turnover companies. They're big players. But the thread that runs through all of them is we will always work with the marketing manager typically, and they've always got such a clear vision. They do all of the planning up front. They know their target audience. They know the goals of the website. And so we get handed a brief. And for us, it's like gold dust. Briefs are the foundations. They set the stones for kind of what you're looking to achieve together. I think that's where we have been quite lucky during the pandemic, is because we've managed to partner with companies who see the value in good design and understand the value in a very good working relationship between the company and the agency. It's not a blame culture. It's we're working together to get to the end point together, sharing ideas collaboratively. I mean, collaboration is, for me, the absolute key. It's the key to the strength of a project across anything. If you can work well together, you can share ideas, bounce ideas. During Zoom calls, it's not always the easiest thing. But actually, I mean, you can see the post-it notes in the background. That would be usually how we would do a discovery session of pulling ideas together. But we found a piece of software that does it digitally. So you've got those post-it notes on the screen, so everybody can see them and everybody can move them and interact with them. And it's that way of bringing everybody into the conversation, all of the stakeholders. It gives everybody a voice, and they feel invested in it. They want the project to do well.
I think the partnership and collaboration is critical, especially between small companies and larger companies when you're effectively a supplier, because they need to understand what you need from them, and also then you've got to be able to communicate effectively about what your plans are going forward. And I think in the past, when people didn't really understand this line between supplier and customer piece, it was a challenge sometimes, because you couldn't really work that effectively. And I think it's really important, like you say, that you collaborate, that you understand what you're trying to achieve, and it's a joint thing you're trying to achieve. And the information flows freely both directions, because that is also a real challenge sometimes, because you could go down a direction, but because they haven't told you anything, you might not understand what they're really wanting to do. And you get to a point in time and say, actually, that's a waste of time. I've got to start again. It's really that collaboration, isn't it, that's really important.
Yeah, especially in the world of web design, because we are not regulated as an industry.
Yes, that's true. I know many web design companies, though, one-man bands that have learnt how to do it from YouTube videos, and it's not quite the same as working with an organisation like yourself, who've got that history and skills and expertise, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's that process, having a process there is safety in that, having a process to make sure that security, particularly for websites, is a massive thing. GDPR is huge, and it's not going anywhere. We all have to have training.
I think a lot of organisations don't understand the compliance and how to manage compliance as well. They just think, oh, as long as we do it this way, we'll be okay. But things change over time. The content could change on there, and you can end up being non-compliant. We have issues around security with our customers that they think that by using the same password and everything they do is actually safe. Well, actually no, and especially if it's not if it's your dog's name or date of birth of someone, definitely not. So it's a challenge to get people to understand that. But I think the other thing is for them to understand what the outcome could be, because if they get some kind of cyber attack, it's not really the cost of fixing things is a problem. It's the effect it has on their reputation as a business. Somebody hacks their website and puts some dreadful material on there, it could affect them for a long, long time, and some of them will never recover from it. And you've seen what's happened with some businesses like TalkTalk and a number of others where they've had data taken from them. The reputational impact is so much greater than anything that you could do around the time it takes to recover a website and rebuild it and get operational again. It's dreadful, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think at the moment, I feel like I'm spending more time going through our SLAs and looking at the GDPR clauses that we have in them compared to anything else.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, that's the thing that they don't tell you at the beginning when you set up a business. In 10 years' time, you're going to be knee-deep in contract clauses and...
and that, there's also people now starting to say, well, we've left Europe, so GDPR doesn't matter. Well, actually, it does, because it's still the Data Protection Act that we all as businesses need to adhere to. So it doesn't change just because we've separated from the European Union. It's still something that's impacting us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think GDPR clauses, they're not difficult to understand once you spend time understanding it. I think actually it's a good thing. I think anything that we can do to give ourselves more protection over our privacy is the right thing to do, especially with the direction that we're going in with AI and technology. For me, if we can give ourselves as much protection now and we understand what holding people's data means, and we are more protective of it, I think it's a good thing, to be honest.
Yeah. And it goes further than GDPR, especially if you're an e-commerce website, because you could also then be taking payments. So now you're looking at PCI compliance. Are you storing credit card data? Are you keeping that information securely? How are you doing that? How are you separating between non-PCI and PCI compliant components as well? Because that's always a big thing, to try and separate them. And again, that's a real challenge, especially for the smaller businesses to understand.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, certainly we're in a space now where we're working with larger clients at the end of the day. We don't tend to have, if I'm honest, we didn't tend to have those conversations with the smaller businesses. But now that the clients we're working with, they have commercial teams and they have their own lawyers, and actually we're still a small business, and when we get sent huge GDPR addendums, it's like, right now now I've got to sit down and go through all this, and it's absolutely right, the protection should be there and it should be considered. But certainly it's proving an interesting time.
Yeah, and I think, again, some businesses think just having a little pop-up on the website that says, because you've actually continued beyond here, you're agreeing to using our cookies on our website. They think that's all you need to do, but there's a lot more to it than that, isn't there? Yeah, and so there's more than we can cover off today. So we're about 30 minutes in, so we've got about 10 or 15 minutes left to talk. And I know one area that we talked about earlier was around Birmingham Tech Week. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in Birmingham Tech Week and what you've done so far?
Yeah, so Birmingham Tech Week is an initiative that we started 3 years ago. So the first one was in 2019. And the idea behind it is it's about shining a spotlight on Birmingham effectively. Being able to showcase to the rest of the UK what Birmingham can do in terms of its kind of tech companies, essentially. I think when Yanis and Marco Sullivan had the initial idea, it was about reducing and breaking down the silos that the tech industry was operating in. So everybody's kind of moving forwards, but not necessarily talking to each other. And that kind of comes back to that collaboration piece.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I joined, it was right at the very beginning when the kind of idea was still being formulated. And I joined with my background in branding and wanting to make sure that the message that the board was delivering was consistent. It's a big undertaking, it's just a big idea. It was about having, what did we have in the first year? I think it was 70 events across, 50 different locations in the city. So if you imagine,
we ran one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So we ran one on Colmore Road, getting people in to talk about cloud native technologies and how you could actually deliver those, which again is still quite an interesting thing because not many people understand what cloud native means. It's about that. It's that cloud word again, and a bit like GDPR, people don't understand what the letters mean, but they don't understand what it means in reality.
Yeah. Well, you'll kind of understand exactly how the first year went, and hot-footing it around the city, trying to get across the different venues, and I think the events were fairly scattered all over. We certainly learned a lot from the first year, but the buzz that came from it, and just, we had people moving from London to Birmingham after Tech Week. It was, the impact was that great, and so year 2 was 2020. Very different, very difficult because it was all online. And I remember we all sat there at the time. Do we want to do this? Are people absolutely sick of Zoom or not? So we kind of put the questions out and we asked within the network. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of for Birmingham Tech Week is the network and the community that has come out of the week. It's everybody works together, and it's a true kind of collaboration and wanting to support each other, and that's obviously what we kind of set out to do. And the third one was October this year, so last month, and again we did, because we don't like to make things easy for ourselves, we did hybrid and face-to-face. Online and face-to-face. It was a hybrid model. It's like running 2 events.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the future going forward for a lot of people, that you'll have people that want to join it live and be in the room. You'll also want people want to see it remotely as well. And you're going to have a combination of that. And like you say, you like 2 events you're running, but also you've got to try and join the 2 together as well. So if a question comes from a remote viewer, it's got to be able to be seen by the host of that session. It's got to be open up to the people that are in the room as well, so they understand what's being asked and the questions. So it is a challenging time, isn't it? And I think technology is getting to the point now where it actually can achieve this. There are a lot of things that are really making it much easier to be able to do these things. Things like we use StreamYard to do this video type piece, and a couple of years ago, you couldn't have done this as easy as you can do it now. It used to be trying to capture your stuff with things like OBS on your PC, and you used to have horrible times where the lip sync was wrong because there was a slight delay between the image and the audio when you're doing the capture on a screen. So I've been there. I've done all this fun games in the past, but it is changing. There's so many new platforms out there that allows you to collaborate much better. And if you look at things like Zoom and Teams and things, they've been really widely adopted now across all organisations. Whereas, you look 2 years ago, it would have been maybe 5 to 10% of the population were utilising them in any way, shape, or form, and it was mainly on the sales side. So it was us dodgy salespeople talking to customers that we didn't really want to travel to, to talk about technology because they were just too far away for it, make it cost effective to go and visit them. But now everybody does it all day long, don't they? Rachel and I, who's hidden in the background, no one else can see other than you and I. We have maybe 6 or 7, video chats a day just to go through what we're doing and keep on top and make sure that we know what we're doing. So, it's really changed, hasn't it, the world? So, going forward then, from where you are to the future, what do you think is critical for you to do as a business? What goals have you set for yourself? And also, what's the future of Birmingham Tech Week looking like going forward? Is it going to be a hybrid event next time? Have you got some plans to grow it in any way? Have you got some key areas that you want to focus on in the future?
Yeah, so I think on Birmingham Tech, yes, I think that hybrid will be the way forward, despite it massively increasing our workload. Actually, the feedback's been really positive. I mean, Birmingham Tech, we've got, I think they estimated 54,000 new jobs be created by 2025 through tech in the region. So for me, that's the reason why we shouldn't stop. It means that it will add £2.7 billion into the economy. They're huge numbers, and creating that many jobs in Birmingham, why would I not? It's a legacy piece. It's what we set out to do. As for Squibble, I have a 5-year plan that I'm kind of putting together now. At the moment, I feel like I get up every day and I'm learning all the time.
Well, I'm nearly 60 and I'm learning every day. So definitely, you're always learning. Every day is a school day, the old saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it should be, I think. I feel so inspired by everything that I'm learning still. And I feel like I've still got so much more to do. I feel like the team at the moment is really strong. I feel like the projects that we're delivering are really exciting and really strong. And I feel like, at the end of the day, I feel like we're making a difference. And that's why it's exciting. And that's why at this point, there's plans in the future for, continued growth. But at the same time, because we've gone through quite a big period of growth, I want to make sure that we're still sustainable and kind of just make us a little bit more stable again.
I think every now and again you've got to look at where you are and just make sure that everything's as it should be. Look at the consolidation, like you say, look at stability, and then you step off again. You drive forward again for the next piece. I've been through that with our business as we've gone along. We've got to a certain point. We need to look at things and make a change. We've done a lot of work with Aston University. Again, there's some great resources in Birmingham. All the universities around us. There's lots of people that can help you in different areas, whether that's recruitment, whether it's technology, anything. There's so many great groups out there that can help. You just need to really step back, think what you need to do, see where you can get help. And even if that's just a peer, I do a lot of mentoring. So I work with BC at Aston University. I also mentor on one of the ex-military. I'm ex-military. I was in the Royal Air Force for quite a long time. So I do some ex-military, mentoring. So people who've come out of the military and they're looking to try and start business for the first time, they've not experienced it. And you've been through it like I've been through it. It's a challenge, isn't it? Because you don't know what you don't know. When you first start a business, you think all it's all about is selling something. And you don't know about all the back end stuff and how to get there in the first place, how to market it. And one of the things I always talk about to a lot of people is it doesn't matter how wonderful your mousetrap is, unless people know about it, they're not going to buy it. Not that people buy mousetraps these days, but but people don't know you, they won't come to your door. You've got to tell people about what you're doing and what's different about you. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think for me, probably at the beginning, the selling was the easy part. Delivering it was the hardest. Widgets, once you've sold it, it's done, job done. Actually, in our world, once we've sold it, we've then got to go away and deliver it.
Yeah, and also the finance side of things is a challenge as well, because sometimes, depending on what you're doing, the more success you get, it creates more of a problem financially for you. You know, especially if you buy something to sell. You know, the more you sell, the more money you've got to have to be able to buy the thing to sell in the first place.
Yeah.
So, you know, that cash flow can be a real challenge. You know, and a lot of, you know, it all depends on your business, how it impacts you. You know, you're a more people power business, aren't you? It's all about getting the people to be able to deliver, you know, on the sales that you've made. But a lot of organisations have got to have that backfilling of products, and you know, it's not as bad as it used to be because people don't stock things anymore. You know, back in my day of technology, you know, back in the 90s and beyond, it used to be stocking. So you used to have 200 or 2,000 of something that you'd then ship out to people. You know, and you couldn't go straight to, you know, the distributor and get them delivered directly to your customer. That didn't happen. It had to go via that mechanism of, you know, distributor to reseller, then reseller out to the customer. And that's how it was done. So, you know, keeping stock and handling stock was another thing you had to learn about and understand, because, you know, it wasn't just the selling piece that comes natural to some of us, but not to all, you know, but it's all that other things like process, and it's all that business process behind it that's a challenge for a lot of people to learn if they've never done it before. Because if they work in a large corporate, somebody else does that, somebody else's problem, it's not theirs, is it? So it's learning all the other jobs and all the different hats that you have to wear as you go along, especially when you're starting out, and then gradually you can put people in the right seats, and then you don't have to worry about them too much. You just got to make sure that everybody's doing what they should be doing effectively.
Yeah.
I
completely agree.
Yeah. So final thing, what would you say? You know, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel from this pandemic? Do you think things are picking up? You know, how do you see the future looking for everybody?
I did up until the end of last week when we had the
Omicron.
Yeah. Here we go again.
I think that's going to be one letter in the Greek alphabet that everybody's going to remember, isn't it? It was one I didn't even know was in the Greek alphabet. Yeah, I knew Omega was in there. I didn't know Omicron was a 15th character in the Greek alphabet. But
dear. That's that I think it's at the end of the day we are in a better position, everybody this time round, to know what to do and to not feel quite so scared by it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we're in a better position to know that actually we still need to keep going. You know, the economy can't close down again.
No, that's it. And I think there's going to be a lot of business that are going to be more affected than you and I with it. You know, such as travel industry again is going to be affected by the restrictions. So, you know, I heard some figures today that was EasyJet had made $1 billion loss in the last year again, but that was actually better than the previous year. You know, but $1 billion loss, you know, to you and I, that's a lot of money, isn't it? But to some organisations, it's a splash in the ocean, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's being able to quantify those figures on that day. So you don't know. You don't know. I think particularly for Birmingham, it will be a big blow if we have to start closing the restaurants and the pubs again. I think that's you know, the city centres and town centres are finding trade hard enough without being compounded with that again.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you ever so much today for joining me. And say it's been great to listen to a bit about your background, you know, how you've gone forward and gone into this world of technology around, you know, marketing and digital delivery, because I think it is a really interesting world we're in at the moment. So thanks ever so much. If you want to stop on afterwards, and we'll just have a quick wash up afterwards after we stop the broadcast. But thank you very much for joining me today. It's been great to have you on, and hopefully speak to you again soon.
No, thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
No problem. Bye.